Hello everyone, this is a short video on how to make a plaster mould, and basically as we're in lockdown we've run out of materials, or you can't get the usual stuff that you would use to make moulds. So I'm doing an old-fashioned plaster mould. So here's my this is a rough sculpture. You can see it's an anglerfish, and I'm going to just slap a load of plaster all over it. As you can see, I've cut the fins off the fish, so they would go there, and they'd be moulded separately in a little plastic jacket mould. Put them there, out of the way. So, got all your stuff ready. I'll do all the mixing here. So, you don't have to be too precious. I'm going to get a lot of plaster, and I've got a giant bucket of water behind me. I just dipped it in there and mixed it up, and I get a nice consistency of the plaster. Probably should use gloves, but we can't get anything in this lockdown, so I've got some barrier cream on. Now this has been covered in Vaseline, a light sort of brushing all over. Whoops, don't worry about that. And that will create a barrier between the plaster and the fish. And then, so literally, it's when you've got a nice cheesy consistency, you just slap it on all over, like that. Get into all the little nooks and crannies. Now, I've Vaselined everything up here. So even this door's got Vaseline on it, so it can release. Because when you make plaster moulds, you always make a mess. It's unavoidable, especially when I do it. But it's good fun, and it's important to get the right consistency. You can see it sets up nicely on the sculpture. And then when you run out, you can use the same container. Go again. So, a little bit more plaster. And I didn't get, because we were in a lockdown and you have essential items, plaster isn't one of them. So I've got to be sparing with this. Get some straight in the water. Nice consistency again. Now I've also cut up this Hessian cloth in little sections. Comes on a roll like this, and that gets soaked, the plaster soaks into that, and you reinforce the mould really well. Works a treat. So more of this. This is a bit thinner, this one. Got to be careful around here. And the first layers of the first plaster layer that I put on tends to set up, as in go hard, fairly quickly. And the water is actually quite warm. I use a little bit of warm water, so it tends to go a bit quicker, which is good for this purposes of this video. So this is going to be a throwaway mold, and after I get the model out, and the model's made with plasticine and it's coated with a shellac, which is like a varnish, and then just spray painted just so I could see the definitions of it. Managed to get all this bits. I know this isn't very riveting, but it's important to see. There we go. So, now what I do is I'm going to transfer that there for a bit, let it start to go a bit cheesy, we call that, so it gets to a cheesy sort of consistency, and then I'll coat more of it, and then I'll mix up another batch and use this, and this gets, you soak it in there and then you lay it up like that, and then that creates a really strong bond jacket for it. So what I'm going to do now is grab these. Now these are the fins that I cut off. So all I'm going to do is just set them up onto a piece of plasticine here, and then pour the rest of the plaster over the top. And it's a very rough it's a very rough way of making a mold, but it's very good, and it's been done for centuries. Well, maybe a century. Plaster of Paris has been around for a long time. Madame Tussauds, she was using it for a hell of a long time. In fact, I worked at Madame Tussauds, so I got first-hand experience of how they make traditional plaster molds, and they still do. Some of the plaster mold making in Tussauds is very complex and amazing. Some of the guys there are very, very talented. There are lots of, like a head section, or head gets cast in wax, obviously, but they make these special plaster molds for it, and lots of different sections, like a puzzle, and they're super talented people. Anyway, this is very rough. It doesn't have to be neat and tidy. So then plaster just goes on there again, nice and gloopy, perfect, nice and cheesy. There we go. You don't want any air bubbles in here because you want it to pick up all the definition from the surface of the model. There we go, that was easy. Sound effects. There we go. I don't want it to spill too much on the floor, but it will be. This plaster is so messy, especially when I do it. So that's good. This is perfect. It's going nice and cheesy. It's looking good. Put a bit on this. Yeah, very happy with that. Now, the thing about plaster as well, this is a throwaway mold. So once you have to break the mold, this plaster cast. You have to actually break it to get the cast out. Obviously, I'll take the plasticine out of it initially, and that's quite a messy job, and that will take a lot. And then, but when I cast a resin, I'll do a resin cast from this plaster cast mold, and then that gets broken. But I'll show you the video of that. Don't want to get ahead of myself or confuse anybody. There we go. Nice and cheesy. So we're going to let that set up, leave it for a little bit, and then I'll go on with this, the Hessian.